Oh, welcome to Dolly Talk. This is Dolly. How is everybody doing? Certainly been an uneventful day, right? So we are going to continue the corn rake trial, the corn rake conspiracy. Yesterday, we, excuse me, did the sheriffs and heard from them in the audio and everything. And today we're going to be hearing from a doctor and I believe the friend of the deceased. Hey, Kay, how you doing? Half Irish. Erica, how are you? Mavka is here. And of course, Sasha, good to see you. All right, let's see. No, doctors are not trustworthy.
Swear and affirm that the testimony you give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Go ahead and have a seat. State your name and spell it for the record, please.
Craig Borden Thompson, that's C-R-A-I-G, B as in boy, O-R-D-E-N, Thompson, T-H-O-M-P-S-O-N.
Go ahead, counsel.
Hey, Rivette, how are you?
Dr. Thompson, you indicated that you're a doctor. Who are
Yes,
you
ma'am.
currently employed by?
Regional Medical Center in Manchester, Iowa.
And Dr. Thompson, in what area do you live in?
I live in Strawberry Point area.
And is that also the area you grew up in?
I grew up in the Monticello area.
Now, you indicated that you are employed at Regional Medical Center in Manchester. What is your title there?
Medical Director of Emergency Services.
How long have you been employed there?
I've been in practice in the area. I've been employed by the hospital for the last 10 years. I've been in practice there for 40 years.
Where did you attend school to get your degree?
I attended Monticello High School. I went to University of Dubuque. I went to College of Osteopathic Medicine and Surgery in Des Moines and did a year rotating internship, following which I went to Strawberry Point.
And you indicated that your title is medical director.
That's correct.
In what area of the hospital do you work in?
Emergency services exclusively.
And what are some of your duties being the medical director at Regional Medical?
I'm responsible for EMS services based at the hospital and throughout the service area. I, along with the other medical staff, paramedic staff, oversee the quality of care of that and oversee the providers in the emergency department.
Are you also a medical examiner for Clayton County?
I am.
And how long have you been, are you the chief medical examiner?
I am the chief medical examiner for Clayton County
And how long have you been the chief medical examiner for Clayton County?
since 1990.
And prior to that, were you a deputy medical examiner?
Yes, I was deputy medical examiner for Clayton County and also Delaware County, where I still remain on the deputy list.
And you indicated that you are now the chief medical examiner for Clayton County. Are you also allowed to act as medical examiner when you're working in Delaware County?
That's permitted, yes, by Iowa code.
And what are some of your duties being the chief medical examiner?
When there's an unattended death in your county, then that typically requires screening to see if it's a medical examiner case. And there are certain criteria set by the Code of Iowa that establish that.
Now, Dr. Thompson, I'd like to direct your attention to November 10th, 2018. On that date, were you employed by Regional Medical Center in Manchester, Iowa?
I was,
And that's in Delaware County?
correct.
And initially, were you scheduled to work that day?
Actually, I wasn't scheduled to work, but there was an illness, and the overnight provider, or the one actually showing up the next day, and so I was called as the safety net. The day provider wondered if I would come in early, so I said sure.
As you were on your way into the hospital, what, if anything, did you learn?
What, if
Shortly
anything?
after arrival at the hospital, I understood that Amy Mullis had been pronounced dead.
And at that point, when you learned that Amy Mullis had been pronounced dead, did you have any additional information?
I talked with Dr. Gerst, who was the backup physician and deputy medical examiner for the weekend for Delaware County, and he had obtained a history of events that he related to me.
And can you please explain Dr. Gerst, spell Dr. Gerst's last name?
Sure. Gerst.
And what information did Dr. Gerst relay to you?
He indicated that he had been told that she had fallen, that Amy had been injured falling on a corn rake that was upended, and that she was found that way, and that it was removed, and she was brought in by a vehicle, private vehicle initially, who tiered with EMS, and they then proceeded to start resuscitative efforts.
Now, doctor, did you know Amy Mullis?
I knew her as a nurse in the emergency department in that capacity.
At some point, did Amy Mullis work at Regional Medical Hospital in Manchester?
Yes.
And did she ever work in the emergency room?
Yes.
Do you know when Amy stopped working at Regional Medical Center?
2014.
And since 2014, when she stopped working there, did you have any contact with Amy Mullis?
No.
Doctor, when you first received this information, what did you do after you received it?
Well, there was concern regarding the mechanism of injury and to make sure that the findings on physical exam were compatible with that history.
Would it be fair to say that you performed a preliminary exam?
Exactly.
And what was the purpose of that preliminary exam?
Well, it was to look at the mechanism of injury and then determine the actual injury pattern on the decedent and see if that was a logical conclusion.
And can you just explain briefly to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what you do when you're performing an exam like you did on that day?
We, well, in this case, the patient was already disrobed. So as part of resuscitative efforts to look for wounds in emergency medicine, you're always wanting to make sure you're not missing something in the resuscitation. At this point, that was concluded. So I did a complete exam of the body, looking at
A little too
the head
complete,
and
if you
neck
ask me.
and extremities, the entire body, front and back.
And after you did that preliminary exam, what did you do?
I took pictures of the
What the hell?
body at that point.
Now, while you're performing this exam, what is your main focus that you're trying to do when you're performing an exam such as this?
Well, your primary goal is, we always try and determine cause of death. We do that whether it's a medical examiner's case or not. The secondary thing, though, is to make sure that if we're presuming it's accidental, if that's the story we're hearing, that the injury matches the story.
Now, doctor, in this case, did you also take
Hey,
pictures
Maddie.
of both Amy Mullis's body as well as the clothing that was she was brought in with?
I did.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
I finally got to see her naked.
Doctor, I'm showing you States Exhibits 24 through 48. Can you please look through those as a whole?
Surely.
Hey, factual lie.
Those appear to be my pictures.
And Dr. Thompson, are those the photographs that you actually took on November 10th, 2018 of Amy Mullis and the clothing that was brought in with her?
Those appear to be, yes.
And do they appear to be in the same or substantially the same condition as they were that day when you took them?
Yes,
And do they appear to be true and accurate copies of those photographs?
they appear to be.
Doctor, did you notice any or observe any injuries on Amy?
Well, notably, she had 6 puncture wounds across the back.
And did that cause you concern?
It got my attention, certainly, to look at the point of entry, how that would have occurred. I was interested in looking at the instrument that she fell on.
Doctor, did you also observe additional injuries on Amy's body as well?
There were basically 2 sets of injuries. There were the puncture wounds to the right posterior thorax, the right posterior chest, and there were then injuries anteriorly in the chin area, in the zygomatic area, which is the cheekbone area, around the ear on the left, and over both patella, the kneecaps. And there was also some contusions, abrasions over the dorsum of each hand, the knuckles of each hand.
Your Honor, at this time, I would ask that the State's Exhibits 24 through 48 be admitted into evidence.
Any objection? No, Your Honor, thank you. 24 through 48 are admitted.
And Your Honor, at this time, I would ask permission to publish these photos to the jury.
Yeah, I'll allow you to publish those. Anybody who is family or friends who have not seen these photos and don't care to see them or don't think they'll be able to see them, I'll give you a minute if you want to leave the courtroom. After anybody has had a chance to leave counsel, you're welcome to publish the photos.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Funny if one of the jurors got up and left.
May I proceed, Your Honor?
Go ahead.
Dr. Thompson, I'm showing you has been previously admitted into evidence as Exhibit 24. What is this a photograph of?
This is a photograph of Amy Mullis after resuscitative efforts had concluded.
And you talked about some injuries on Amy's body. I'm showing you People's Exhibit number 25. What is this a photograph of?
These are abrasions over the dorsum of the left hand.
And when you say abrasions, is that those 2 red marks that are on Amy's left hand?
Yes, and there's a contusion near the base of the ring finger as well,
Now, doctor, just so that everybody is clear, what is a contusion?
a bruise.
And what's an abrasion?
Abrasion is a roughening or a scraping of the skin, a frictional injury.
I'm going to show you State's Exhibit number 26. Is that a
Non-alcoholic
close-up of that
NAFTA.
left hand and those
Thank you.
abrasions that you previously
I
described?
believe so.
I'm going to show you, or this is State's Exhibit number 24. What is this a photograph of? I'm sorry, 27. What is this a photograph of?
This shows contusions. We're talking about bruises about the ear ring on the left earlobe. It shows a pattern that the ear ring itself has caused contusion in the surrounding tissue.
State's Exhibit 28. What is that a photograph of?
That's another angle of the same thing, plus a contusion on the top of the earlobe, or the auricle itself, near the other piece of jewelry.
So just so we're clear, you see the white earring at the bottom of the ear,
Correct.
and there is what appears to be a contusion above that.
Correct. Above it and under it, as you saw in the other picture.
And then all the way to the right, I guess on the top, near the top of the ear, there's also some additional injuries there.
Correct.
And you called that, I'm sorry, a contusion or an abrasion?
It looks like a combination of both.
Thank you. State's Exhibit number 29. What is this a photograph of?
This was the jeans she was wearing that day.
State's Exhibit number 30.
That was her outer coat.
Wow.
And State's Exhibit number 31.
That's the outer coat reflecting the puncture wounds.
And there appears to be some type of measuring guide or what appears to be a ruler on this jacket.
It's a rough idea of the puncture wound distances. It's always a little hard to piece back together after the fact, no matter how carefully you try and take the picture.
And are you the one that actually placed these white pieces of paper
Yes.
measuring tape? People's Exhibit number 32. What is this a photograph of?
This appears to be the exterior coat, yet the inside view.
And State's Exhibit number 33. What is this a photograph of?
This is a close-up of Amy, still intubated after resuscitative attempts.
Now, here, there appears to be something on Amy's left jaw.
Yes, a very prominent, I considered it the next most significant injury after the puncture wounds in the back.
And what is this on Amy's left jaw?
This is a deep abrasion contusion. There's both a crush type component and a scraping type component to it. And the other thing that I think is notable is it's clean.
And what does that mean to you?
Well, typically if you fall on a ground or rock or gravel, you're going to have indented or embedded gravel and foreign body in that. And in another view, I think you have that in your deck. It shows that there is none of that, and that was not cleaned off.
Now, when you say this is both an abrasion and a contusion, would it be fair to say that that means that it's a bruise and it's also some type of ripping or tearing on the skin?
Correct.
And I think you indicated earlier that an abrasion is almost like friction on the skin.
A frictional injury.
Is that almost similar to like a rug burn?
This would be a very bad one, yeah.
State's Exhibit number 34. What is this a photograph of?
This is an inner garment sweatshirt that was under the outer coat. I was told they were off by the time I got there. This also reflects a puncture wound pattern consistent with the exterior coat.
And State's Exhibit number 35. What was
The
this?
third layer of the t-shirt, again with the puncture wounds.
And State's Exhibit number 36. Is this a close-up picture of that
Yes.
same shirt? And again, did you put that measuring guide on?
I did.
And see two fairly distinctly. Do I not have my little... Damn, I can't highlight it. But yeah, in the red, there's two there.
State's Exhibit number 37. Is this a different angle of that contusion and abrasion on Amy's left chin?
It's a more direct close-up and slightly a little more direct on, so you can actually see the two components, the deeper bruise abrasion and the stippling a little more posterior there, the lighter abrasion portion.
What do you mean by posterior?
I'm sorry, toward the back of your jaw. Sorry.
State's Exhibit number 38. What is this a photograph of?
This appears to be the right patellar area, the right kneecap area.
And what is it that you see here on this kneecap area?
That's a contusion, minimal abrasion.
And State's Exhibit number 39.
This is
And yeah, because she would have fallen. She would have fallen and like hit her knee.
the left knee area. You'll see the yellow object is an interosseous needle. If it's difficult to get IV access and you need it in a hurry, it's a drilling-like device that we go into the bone marrow with, gives us instant access. When we pronounce a code, any resuscitative efforts, any instruments, tubes, things that we put in the body, we leave in place for the autopsy to follow. And that also reflects, you can see the contusion and abrasion portion over that kneecap area.
And in this abrasion, do you see any pieces of gravel or any dirt?
Not that I could recognize.
I'm showing you State's Exhibit number 40. What is this a photograph of?
This is her back, puncture wound pattern of her back.
And how many puncture wounds did you find on Amy Mullis's body?
She had 6 puncture wounds.
And just so we're clear,
I wonder if two of them were deeper or less deep than the others.
When you're referring to puncture wounds, that is different than the contusions and abrasions.
And none of the others were puncture wounds.
And what is a puncture wound?
It is a hole forced through tissue caused by, it can be any number of things, a sharp object, a projectile. It penetrates a given distance and causes a more linear injury.
Yeah, I was going to say a little too into this.
Dr. Thompson, did you grow up on a farm yourself?
I did.
Of course
Were
he
you
did.
familiar with a corn rake or corn fork when you were performing this exam?
I've had occasion to use them, yeah.
And were you aware of how many tines or prongs there were on a corn rake?
Well, yes, and I also asked to see the rake that day
And,
because there can be differing tines.
and what was the purpose of you asking to see that corn fork or corn rake?
Sexual
That was
arousal.
the instrument of injury. I had to make sure that made sense. The tying pattern on that was consistent with 6 puncture wounds in the posterior thorax, posterior right chest.
I'm going to show you People's Exhibit number 41. What is this a photograph of?
That appears to be Amy's right hand, and contusions noted about the knuckle joints, the MCP joints.
And State's Exhibit number 42.
Her right hand also showing some, in this angle, I can't tell if that's bleeding from other source, just not cleaned, or an abrasion. It's
And that's her
possible.
palm.
That's her palm.
State's Exhibit number 43. What is this a photograph of?
This shows the left side of Amy's jaw and cheekbone area and her ear. It gives you an angle on both the chin injury and also the contusions about the ear. You can see a little contusion in the zygomatic area too in this picture.
What's the zygomatic area?
I indicated, I'm sorry, the cheekbone area is the zygomatic process.
Thank you. And State's Exhibit number 44, is this another angle of her ear injuries that you've
Sure,
previously?
different lighting to highlight it differently.
And
the
State's
same.
Exhibit 45, this is the back of that same ear.
Yes, with the left ear again, it just shows it a little more, the lighting was more favorable.
And State's Exhibit number 46 is another photograph of Amy's jaw injury.
Yes, notably, it's under the mandible. not
What do you
on-
mean by mandible?
Jawbone, sorry, I got to decode everything. And it's,
Arrogant, correct?
it was oriented, if you can see in the pictures, I'm indicating under the jawline, from starting point back.
State's Exhibit 47, is this another photograph of, I believe, her right hand that we previously saw?
Different lighting, yeah. Sometimes, even with digital photographs, if you change the lighting, it will appear different, so you do it a couple of times.
And in this photograph, what injuries do you see on Amy's right hand?
Again, the contusion about the knuckle there on the ring finger, or excuse me, index finger, and there's one near between the third and fourth, the middle and ring finger on that hand.
And lastly, State's Exhibit 48, is this just another photograph? of
Another
that
view, same thing.
Now, at the time where you were performing this exam, Dr. Thompson, was the information that you were given was that it was alleged that Amy fell on the corn rake?
That's what I was told.
And were the injuries that you observed consistent with an accident or falling on a corn rake?
I found it very difficult to see how 4 tines could cause 6 holes in a single impact.
Now, you indicated that at some point you actually asked to see the corn rake or corn fork.
I did.
And who did you ask to see that?
I asked the sheriff's department if they had that available, and they did.
And where did you go to view that corn fork?
In the ambulance garage across from the emergency department.
And what did you do when you were observing it?
I looked at the tines size, I looked at the spacing, I looked at what appeared to be on the tines.
And did that, and how many tines were there?
There were 4 tines.
And that was inconsistent with Amy's 6 puncture wounds.
With a single impact, it was.
Did you contact anyone after you were done performing your exam?
I contacted the state medical examiner's office.
And who did you speak with at the state medical examiner's office?
Dr. Kelly Cruz was on.
What was the purpose of contacting Dr. Cruz?
Well, presently, if you need more data in an injury like this, you contact a forensic pathologist. I am not one. I have background in medical examiner work, but I need at times more data than that. So I talked to Dr. Cruz, who's a forensic pathologist, and asked her to do an autopsy in the interest of getting more information.
And what is the procedure that is used then to transport the body to the state medical examiner's office?
I have to ensure that everything is appropriately sent with the patient, stored appropriately, identified and secured appropriately, chain of custody sort of thing. And then we also cover the hands with paper bags to keep any evidence that might be evident later intact.
Now, a moment ago, doctor, you indicated that one of your duties might be as medical examiner determining cause and manner of death. What do you mean by
Yes.
What do you mean by cause of death?
Cause of death would be, was it suspicious? Was it accidental? Was it natural? Was it, for example, a car accident's accidental? If you determine, though, that the person deliberately crossed the road to hit the semi to commit suicide, that's a different story. So sometimes just looking at things doesn't tell you the whole story without knowing more about it.
And on November 10th, 2018, did you determine a cause of death?
I did not.
Did you indicate on your paperwork, or what did you indicate on your paperwork?
In a setting where I think that I have conflicting data, I'm being told one thing and the physical evidence is another thing, that's when I seek the consult with the state. And I probably do that more than I don't do that on certainly on anything of an injury of this kind. And I contacted Dr. Cruz then too.
And was your cause of death on your paperwork, did you indicate pending?
Pending.
And that was because you wanted to wait for Dr. Cruz to perform a full exam on the
We
body?
needed the results of the autopsy and toxicology and so forth.
I have nothing further, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Cross-examination. Doctor, you talked about and you've shown us some pictures of Amy's body and also some photographs of the clothing. I think at one point you said something about you yourself had not removed that clothing.
I had not removed that clothing. It was gone when I got there.
Do you know when it was removed?
After her arrival there, it indicated that's part of a standard resuscitative effort.
Would you please take a look at State's Exhibit 46?
Yes, I have it.
That's the mandible or jawline injury.
Correct.
In your training and experience, is there any way to determine what caused that injury?
It's blunt force injury. And when you think about it, I've seen hundreds, if not thousands, of people who have fallen on their face, fallen on their jaw.
I laugh at most of
It's
them.
typically a more front approach injury, a more anterior injury, as we'd call it. There's often abrasions elsewhere, not just there, but up on the cheek. If it's more nasal, they'll have a scrape on their nose. There's usually more than just a hit along the jaw when you have that kind of injury. Additionally, this seemed, in the pictures you can see it, it was oriented vertically. In other words, it was this way. It wasn't this way as a mechanism of injury. Could you do that falling down? Conceivably, if you were fully extended and fell forward. Again, I didn't see any evidence of gravel or other foreign body in that wound, which I would have expected because I've seen lots of gravel burns through the years. Road rash.
Doctor, what's coming to my mind as you describe this is it's kind of like in the cowboy and western movies where someone comes up and kicks from underneath if someone was down and catches them under the chin. Would that be the type of blow that would cause that kind of injury?
That could be one.
But looking at the injury itself, there's no way to determine whether that was done with a fist, a foot, a 2x4, a piece of pipe.
It's blunt force. You could have a sufficient imprint pattern with any of those things to give you that pattern.
Okay. Please look at Exhibit 40. I believe you described that as the puncture pattern on her back.
Correct.
Okay.
Did you do any specific examination of the diameter
guys.
or sizes of those? Did you do?
Damn it. Sorry, I'm going to go back to the back picture. So if you're squeamish, sorry, look away. All right. So, God damn it, my little page drawing thingy doesn't work right now. Why not? Damn it. Okay, pretend it does. Okay, so you got one at the top, 2, 3, 4. I count 5. That's weird because they're not. See, I assumed they would have like all been in line. And some of them are much deeper. So there would have been more force that. Okay, so. Yeah, the puncture match doesn't. Or puncture pattern doesn't match. That's weird. I was picturing just 4 straight ones or. Because if he took it out, phrasing, and, but for there to be 6, unless like 2 of the prongs missed her body, I'm just thinking if he did it. Neither scenario really makes sense. See how close those 2 small... Yeah, the small ones are very... I mean, if she rolls around or contorts in a weird way, let's say she fell, just devil's advocate here, then I could see somebody contorting, trying to get the rake out of them, and then... let's say her blood, because that one up top looks like it probably would have hit the lung. That was the one that hit the lung. So then they could have like done a weird contortion and had it reinsert, but not with as much force as like the first one. And yeah, I don't see 6 either. Imagine them coming in at an angle. Sure. Done it to herself though. There is testimony that how could she have done it to herself? There is testimony that she had just had a medical operation or procedure. She was like on a ladder or bucket and she was a little dizzy, a little weak. She was going to, I believe, get the cat carrier or animal carrier and then go and rest. So if there's like the corn rake is just lying around, she trips or faints or whatever and then lands on it. Say at least 3 strikes. We don't know what she was doing while he was swinging the rake. That's true. She would have had to have at least fallen twice, or her body would have had to have lifted up in a way that 2 of the prongs came out, and then she kind of twisted herself and then kind of collapsed back on it with some force. Anyways, okay, that is interesting. That was
Correct.
Did you do any specific examination of the diameter or sizes of those puncture wounds?
I deferred that because I knew I was going to have Dr. Cruz do a detailed analysis as well as the spine, the track that each spine would have taken. That has to be done internally. At this point in a preliminary exam, have to be very careful I don't cause artifact. In other words, I cause injury to the body that makes it confusing to the pathologist doing the autopsy. You make channel where it shouldn't be. You make the wound look more complicated. So I avoided that carefully.
So you couldn't then, nor are you prepared to now, to say that there's a difference in those puncture wounds themselves?
Well, visually there is.
Okay. Different sizes.
Different sizes, oval and less oval.
Okay.
Smaller, larger.
Well, let me ask you, is it a fair question to ask you if all those wounds were made by the same object?
Well, you look at the tines on that corn rake, it has differing dimensions from the point to the shaft to deep down the shaft. That will give you a different wound imprint depending on how deep the corn rake goes.
Please stop saying shaft, sir.
Thank you, Doctor.
Any redirect for him? Okay, thank you, sir. You're free to go.
Okay. His lawyer from this trial testified in the new one. Okay, we're going to keep going. Oh, wow. Really? That's interesting. Yeah, I know we are all 12, and even when we're talking about a gruesome unaliving or self-aliving by accident, we still giggle at inappropriate things. Sorry. Okay, Okay, we're going to go to a Terry Stainer. Stainer. I think this is what Waterfall told us about the other day. No way I'm going to get through this, all of it, but we will start. And then finish up, sewer slide. Rachel K. His lawyer is that what his lawyer said? I do like it when defense lawyers throw themselves under the bus. And it makes sense. No problem, Hella. Yeah, I will redirect everyone over, and we'll see you there. Got a great Luigi stream coming up. Oh, your opinion. Yeah, I agree. Okay, let's start this.
There will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Go ahead and have a seat. State your name and spell it for the record, please.
My name is Terry Stainer. It's Terri. Last name is Staner.
Go ahead, counsel.
Why do I get the feeling she had a watch party after this?
Ma'am, could you please tell us how old you are?
56.
And what area do you currently live in?
I live near Irville.
What area did you grow up in?
I grew up over by Marshalltown.
Did you graduate from high school?
Yes.
Where did you graduate from?
Gladbrook.
And did you receive any additional schooling after that?
I went for a year for dental assisting, and I did that for a few years until I had my children. And then later on, I went back to EMT and paramedic.
And what is your current occupation?
I am a critical care flight paramedic for a air ambulance service. I also work PRN at the hospital in Marshalltown as a paramedic, and I do their emergency preparedness coordination.
Did you
Oh, very faint blue eyeshadow. I think she misses the 80s.
know Amy Mullis?
Yes.
How did you know Amy?
I met Amy in approximately 2006 when she started working at Manchester Hospital, and we met there.
And in what capacity was Amy working at Manchester Hospital?
Amy was a nurse.
What was the nature of your relationship when you first met Amy?
When I first met Amy, I was working as a EMT unit secretary.
And would it be fair to say you became friends?
We became very good friends.
And when you say, what kind of things would you do together?
We did a lot together. We went out for lunch a lot. We, at one point, rented a houseboat for a week with several friends, and Amy was along, and we're up there and spent time together as friends and just socialized.
Is there anything that you and Amy would do on a regular basis or semi-regular basis?
We were golf partners for a couple of years, and
You just know she was one of the dancing nurses during COVID.
we did golf a lot together. We did a lot of lunches together.
What kind of things did Amy like to do?
Amy liked to golf. Amy, she was a great nurse. She liked to take care of people. She enjoyed farming. She liked to hunt and fish. And I think probably the thing she liked most was being a mom.
And why do you say that?
Because her kids came first. You know, if I wanted to do something or had something planned, and if there was something going on with their children, that came first. She loved coaching their ball games. She loved being a mom.
Now, sometime after you met Amy, did you leave Regional Medical Center in Manchester?
I did. I left within that first year, and we did remain very close friends after that.
Where were you working then when you left there?
I went down to Iowa City for about 6 months on a transport service with fixed wing air, and then I went to St. Luke's in their ER and then on their flight team.
And then at some point, did you start working again at Manchester Hospital?
I didn't start that again until probably 3 years ago. Amy and I were both on the Irville volunteer ambulance together, so we spent a lot of time with the fire department, doing things with the fire department,
Whoa.
fundraisers and things like that.
What
Do
t-shirt
you know how long Amy worked
contest?
at Manchester Hospital?
Amy worked there until, I'm thinking approximately 5 or 6 years ago.
And do you know why she left?
She left because
I was
it
getting
kind of
really
a deal
annoying.
she made with her husband after she had her first affair, that she needed to be home and not be in that environment with a lot of other people.
Now, let me just go back 1 second. You said something about you doing some work with the fire department with Amy as well?
Right.
And what did Amy do with regards to the fire department?
She was nurse exempt, so we were on the ambulance together. We really didn't do anything on the fire side. It was just the EMS side.
So what are some of the things or duties that you have when you would be working in that capacity?
We carry pagers, and if there's a call, if you're available, you go and respond to the call.
Now, throughout your friendship with Amy, let me go back. Do you know Todd Mullis?
Yes.
How did you meet Todd?
I met Todd through Amy.
And what was your relationship like with Todd?
My relationship was fine with Todd. I didn't see Todd a lot because Todd didn't do a lot of social things. I did see him occasionally, and I think our relationship was fine.
When you would see Todd, where would you generally see him?
He came to a few of the fire department functions, and if I would stop at their house, sometimes I stopped there to get eggs or drop off something with the kids or do corn or something like that, and I would see Todd there.
Do corn? I'd stop by to do corn? I don't want to know what that means, ma'am.
Would it be fair to say that you were also friendly with Todd?
Yes.
We were in a
And did Todd
polycule.
work a lot on the farm?
Todd worked all the time. He was very passionate about farming.
How dare he?
Now, at some point in your friendship with Amy, did she start confiding in you about her relationship?
Her relationship with
Todd.
Todd, yes.
And you already said something about this, but approximately 5 years ago, did Amy tell you any information that related to her relationship with Todd?
Yes.
And what did Amy tell you?
I distinctly remember we were golfing, and she told me that she had begun an affair with someone that would come up to the hospital quite often.
Now, after you learned that information, did you have any role with regards to Amy and Todd's relationship?
I did.
And what was your role?
I spent a lot of time talking with both of them, with Amy and with Todd, as far as what they were going to decide to do. I talked to one of our social workers at our hospital for advice for good counseling for them to go to if they wanted to make their marriage work. And so they did start going to counseling in Cedar Rapids. I feel like I had a very good finger on that pulse of how things were going between the two of them. And
Of course you
How
can.
was it that you even became involved in that?
I was really nosy.
I think, if I remember correctly, it was Todd reaching out to me,
And how would you communicate with Todd?
mostly through text.
At times throughout the years, would you sometimes also have conversations or phone conversations
Yes.
with him? And how would you communicate with Amy?
Amy I saw quite often.
Would you and Amy also at times communicate by text messages and
Yes.
phone?
Ladies, when you're good friends with another woman, how often do you text their husbands? I don't know. That just seems odd.
Now, what, if any, observations did you make about their relationship after
wonderful.
you talked to them about it and they were in counseling?
I thought, maybe things would be able to work out for them. It took
How'd that
Todd
turn
a
out?
very long time or I don't think he ever really trusted Amy again.
I wonder why.
That was very hard for her. A lot of times when we were together, she would, say, how long do I have to pay for this mistake? It was very regulated who she could do things with. I was on, it was kind of a joke, the approved friend list that could actually do things with Amy.
She told me a funny. She was a cheating whore, and then her husband didn't forgive her, and she was upset he didn't forgive her. Sorry.
She was timed when she left home and when she got back, and it was very carefully watched her activities outside of the farm.
You indicated that you talked to Todd quite a bit as well about this affair 5
Yes.
years ago. What observations or what did you observe Todd's behavior to be like after finding out about that affair?
He was concerned a lot about the sexual part of it, like if this
Jesus.
other person, what she was getting from that person, if there were things were better with him or not. He was very focused on this other gentleman and his family. After they started going through counseling, I kind of thought things would maybe settle down a little bit.
Was his name Aaron?
And then Amy told me that Todd felt like the other gentleman wasn't punished enough, so he called his wife when she was at work, and she's a nurse in a care center, and told her about the affair when she was at work.
To the summer and fall of 2018. During that time, were you also still communicating with Amy and Todd in different ways?
Yes.
And around that time, do you remember having I believe, a conversation with Todd where he asked you some questions about Amy?
Yes.
And what was what form of communication was that?
I honestly do not remember if it was a phone conversation or a text message conversation.
But do you remember the information that Todd relayed to you?
Yes.
And what was that information?
He asked me, he said, hey, I noticed Amy's been acting strange again. She's been kind of going off into the bedroom and, spending a lot of time in there alone with her phone. She's kind of showing some of the same behaviors that she had before. And he said, so I looked at our phone bill and I saw just in one day there were 128 text messages to the same gentleman.
Should have used
And
Snapchat.
he asked me, do you think this is strange behavior? And I said, yes, I do. I do feel like that is strange
Wow.
behavior, and that he needed to talk to her and ask her, what the behaviors were and what was going on.
Now, Terry, you indicated that part of that message was asking you if you thought Amy was doing things like before.
Yes,
What did you take that to mean?
having an affair.
At that point, were you aware of whether or not Amy was having an
No.
affair? At that point, had Amy told you about an affair?
No.
Shortly after that, did you have a conversation with Amy?
Yes.
And do you remember if that was in person or by way of phone?
It started as a text. She sent me a text message and she said, I'm in trouble and I need to talk. Something along that line.
And once you got that message, do you know if you saw her in person or if it was a phone conversation?
It was within a couple days she came over in person.
And was anybody else present for that conversation? During that conversation, what did Amy indicate to you?
She told me that she had started seeing their field guy that had come to their farm quite often. I didn't exactly understand what his job was or what his role was, and that Todd was very suspicious, had called this gentleman's wife and had confronted him, also asking if there was something going on between the two of them due to the volume of text messages. And she did tell me that she was having an affair with him at that time.
At that time, did Amy indicate to you any intentions about whether or not she was going to stay with Todd or leave Todd?
No, she indicated that she didn't know what was going to happen with this relationship. She said it first started out as very sexual.
Rawr.
He made it very clear that that's all it was about, was just having sex. And then she said, but as they progressed, they became close, and it became more than just a sexual relationship.
Did you continue to meet with Amy for lunch or in
Yes.
other ways at this time?
I did.
Did you have any additional conversations with Amy about this affair and her relationship with Todd?
Yes.
And what do you remember in relation to that initial conversation about the affair when the next conversation took place?
She was, at this time, she was telling me, I'm still not sure what I want to do. You know, maybe I should just stick it out. Maybe I should.
She
you
certainly
know,
was sticking
Be
things.
with my family.
Oh,
She didn't know
I didn't
if,
mean it like
you know,
that.
where, she said this, Jerry was in the same boat she was. You know, he had family, he had children at home. And so she still didn't have that relationship kind of figured out. When
Go ahead, sorry.
When she very first told me, the very first day that she was having an affair,
paramour is
I was
kind of
so angry at her because I told her, you know, Amy, you're putting yourself in a really dangerous situation. And I said at that time, he is going to kill you.
And why did you
What?
say that?
Because Todd is just the person you don't mess with.
Now, during this same
Oh,
time that
even
you're
he
having
thinks
these
that's
conversations
bullshit.
with Amy, are you at times also communicating with Todd?
Yes.
And what, if anything, is Todd saying to you in these conversations?
Todd was saying that Amy.
and okay, funny how she doesn't say, did she think that literally, or just like a figurative term is, oh, he's going to kill me, or he's going to kill you. I
Me at home was very moody. She was crying a lot. She was being mean to the children. He was saying that she seemed depressed. She's
Right.
upset. But at the same time, he's saying this. When I was with Amy, I did not see that behavior from her. I did not see her upset and crying. And the only thing she was having a difficult time with is she felt like if she chose to continue this relationship, she would lose her son, Tristan.
And did she indicate to you why she felt that?
She said that the past few months that Tristan and Todd had become very close. Prior to that, Amy and Tristan were actually a very close mother-son.
I feel like this isn't a party opponent exception. You're not saying what the defendant said. This is like speculation, and there really needs to be an objection here, buddy.
Tristan would come golfing with us. You know, he'd call me Terror Bear, and he spent a lot of time with Mom. He is very soft-hearted, very kind kid. She had told me, you know, all of a sudden Todd is starting to be Mr. Super Dad, which wasn't the case before because he's so involved with the farm. He didn't take time out to go to their activities. And now he was doing things with the children, like taking them on picnics or down to their pond
That monster.
or fishing, which had never happened before. She said that he and Tristan were spending a lot of time together. Tristan was missing a lot of school because Todd was pulling him out to work on the farm. She was upset that Tristan stopped participating in band because his dad told him that that was for pussies. She said Tristan started like emulating his dad, the way he walked, the way he talked. didn't want to wear underwear because his dad didn't wear underwear. I mean, he just started mimicking his dad, and he and his dad became very, very close in those few months.
Now, Terry, at the same time, did you have additional conversations with the defendant, Todd, where he was asking you if you thought that Amy was having an affair?
Yes,
And at that point, you actually knew Amy was having an affair?
I did.
What was your response to Todd when he would ask you that?
My response to Todd, I kind of sidestepped the questions because I felt like Todd and I have always had pretty straight up with each other, and I felt like I was being put in a position where I had to lie to him, which I didn't want to do because, number one, I wasn't comfortable lying with him, and but on the other hand, I felt like I needed to protect Amy because she felt like she needed time to decide what she was going to do.
And what do you remember what kind of responses you would give Todd when he would ask you if you thought Amy was having an affair?
I would tell him, Todd, you need to talk to Amy. You just need to talk to Amy. Maybe you guys need to go back to counseling. You guys need to spend time together. I said, Amy likes to be out. She can't be trapped on the farm all the time. She's social. She wants to go out. She wants to look pretty. She wants to do things, and you need to do these things with her. I told him we were going on vacation in March. I said, you guys should join us so that you guys have time together. And I said, you need to spend time with her and your family.
Now, at some point at the end of August, do you remember going to a conference for work?
Yes.
And did you hear something, or did something come to your attention during that
Yes.
conference at work?
So I went to a trauma conference and with other people that worked at Regional Medical Center. At that time, we were going to supper, and it was mentioned that Amy was being naughty again,
And what did you take that to mean?
that they knew she was having an affair. And I asked, where did you hear this? And the person that said it told me he heard it from his brother-in-law, who was very good friends with Todd, too. And so I knew it was out in the community.
When you heard that there were rumors going about Amy's affair, did you have any concerns?
Yes.
Why?
The next day, when we were going home, my husband told me, you need to let Amy know. And I said, yes, I understand. I need Amy to know that Todd's going to hear this and that she needs to talk to Todd with Randy, her stepdad, there, and tell him the truth and what's going on before he hears it from someone else.
Did you have a conversation with Amy about that information?
Yes, I did.
And do you remember if that was in person or phone?
I sent her a text and I said, I need to talk to you. And she goes, okay. She brought over I got eggs from her all the time. She brought over some eggs, and I said, and it may have been some text and some talking to her in person. I told her it was out and that who had told me what was said, and she was very, very, very upset.
And during that conversation, was anyone else present?
No.
Did that conversation take place at your home?
Yes.
And what, you indicated a second ago that you said, what did you say to her about who, or what else did you say to her, I guess I'll ask?
I told her it was out, what was said, and she kept focusing on who said it, who said it, who said it. And I'm like, Amy, that doesn't matter who said it. What matters is that it's out in the community. It's a small community. Todd's going to hear it from someone else. You need to tell him. And she kept focusing on who said it, who said it, who said it. So I told her who had said it. And she said, I'm going to tell Todd that there's rumors out there to stop this. So if he hears it, he'll think it's just the rumor mill going around.
And what was your response when
Oh,
Amy
that'll
told you
work.
that?
I told her she needed to be honest with him and tell him. And I told her she needed to take Randy with her,
Who is Randy?
her stepdad.
And why did you indicate to her that you thought that Randy should go with her?
because I felt like she would be safe if Randy went with her.
And what was Amy's relationship like with Randy?
They have a very, very good relationship.
During your conversation with Amy, did she indicate to you that she was fearful of Todd?
She never came out and said she was fearful of Todd.
Okay.
She was more fearful of what was going on between Todd and Tristan.
Did you ever have a conversation with Amy where she told you if she came up missing what to do?
Yes.
And do you remember when that conversation was?
That conversation happened after Todd and I had kind of stopped texting or talking because I was very short with my responses to him. He said, Amy had gone to the state fair. I knew she was going to be with her friend there.
When you say her
And-
friend, is that the person she was having the
Yes.
affair with?
Yes.
Go ahead.
What a
I
romantic
encouraged
place.
Todd to go and to maybe surprise Amy and show up there so that,
Just so we're clear, so Amy was planning on going to the state fair.
yes.
And were you aware that she was going to be meeting the man
What?
she was having the affair with?
She said they were meeting and they were staying in a hotel together.
At that same time, were you
Oh, Todd, maybe you should go to the state fair and, casually meet up with her and, how on earth is that helping the situation?
still texting and speaking with Todd at times about their
Yes.
relationship?
Yes.
Just have to wait till I ask the question because the court reporter
Okay,
is
sorry.
taking every-
Oh, hello.
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
Good. Is he not guilty?
I don't know what he is, but this woman's very one of those nosy people
Oh,
who's
okay.
kind of controlling their whole lives, and
Who is she?
a friend of the deceased and kind of the husband, or was.
Oh, right.
And she's like texting both of them, and just now she when the deceased was going to go to the Iowa State Fair with her boy toy she was having an affair with, she suggested that the husband, who did not know, surprised the deceased at the Iowa State Fair.
As you do.
Yeah, as one does.
Okay. Justin, you think everyone's guilty as fuck. You're like the male Nancy Grace.
Only prettier. Wait.
Yeah, you are pretty young. That's definitely true.
thing down.
Your Sarah was
And-
getting.
You just indicated a moment ago that you at some point encouraged Todd to go to the state fair.
I did.
Why did you do that?
Well, it's fun. You got corn, deep fried corn.
Because I wanted him to find them together when it would be safer for her.
And what do you mean by that?
I felt like if it was in a hotel with a lot of people, that maybe things would not escalate.
Now, as you indicated, you were still, at this time, when your conversations are going on with Amy, you're still having some text conversations with Todd.
Yes.
And what other types of conversations or text conversations are you having with Todd?
Mostly
tell-
with
tell him to
Todd,
bring a
but
loaded
then
gun
was
with him?
just, you guys need to talk, you guys need to talk. And then I can't remember what my last text was to him, but I remember his last text was, maybe everybody's lying to me about this, and then I never got another text from Todd.
Oh, imagine that.
Now, a minute ago, you said, we started talking about a conversation that you said happened after you encouraged Todd to go to the state fair with Amy. Is that a yes?
Yes,
And where did that
Who's that,
conversation
Todd?
take place?
at my home.
And was anybody else present for that conversation?
No.
So what was the context of that conversation with Amy?
That conversation occurred Amy had been with her family. Her uncle had had a head bleed. Her mom was trying to help take care of him. Amy went down for several days because he kept trying to get out of bed. He would fall. So Amy went down to spend nights there so that her mom could go home and rest. She had come home and went to Todd's mother's house to get Wyatt. And his mother did not want to let Wyatt go with her.
And would that have been sometime in October 2018? And did that conversation, was that text message or was it in person or both?
She sent me a text and she said, "Can you talk?" And I said, "Give me a couple minutes." And then I called her and she was crying. She was upset. I couldn't hardly understand her. I said, "Amy, what's going on?" She said that she went to get Wyatt. Elaine said, "He's not going with you because everybody knows you're crazy Amy. Everybody in the neighborhood's calling you crazy Amy. You're crazy Amy. You're not taking this kid because you're crazy Amy." And Amy's like, "What are you talking about?" And she said, it's harvest, it's a busy time for this family. You shouldn't have been gone. You should have been home and taken care of your children and your family." And Amy goes,
Amazing.
"I needed
You're such
to
a
be
whore,
with my
Amy."
uncle. I needed to help my family." And he kept falling out of bed, and Elaine said, "Well,
I doubt it.
just tie those people to the bed, and that's what they should do to him. And you could have been home with your family." So Amy was very upset. She had texted Todd. Excuse me.
Still real to me, damn it.
She got a text from Todd that said, "Do not go with your mother. She's crazy." It was a text intended for
No, she's only a
Tristan
whore.
that went to Amy.
Yeah, you're the crazy
When you say
one.
Elaine, is Elaine Todd's mother?
Yes.
Now, during any of your conversations with Amy, did she ever tell you about an area to look for her if she was ever missing?
Yes, it was the same day
In a van down by
after we
the
had the
river.
conversation on the phone. She came to my home. She was crying. She was red-faced. She had mascara running down her face. She was very upset. She said she needed to talk to Todd. She didn't understand why.
Yes, Pat, I'd like to buy an objection for 600,
I reckon, what's with all this freaking hearsay?
right?
What's going on? Oh, she said this, and she said that, and he said this, and then...
Apparently they haven't heard of objections in Iowa.
No, and then I spoke to the cat, and then the cat told me
Yeah.
that she was a whore,
Well,
and he was crazy.
oh yeah, big time.
Been sniffing the catnip.
He would say that to Tristan. And she said, "Terry," or she called me Tara. She
Tear.
said, "Tara, if I ever come up missing, have them look in our new timber." And I said, "Amy, you have got to get Randy here, and you've got to go talk to Todd."
Did Amy say anything else to you during that conversation that you recall?
No, she was just very tearful. She was going to go home and talk to Todd after she left my home.
Did you ever have a conversation with Todd when you indicated to him that maybe him and Amy should get a divorce?
Yes,
And was this in person, on phone, or text, if you remember?
I believe it was text.
And do you remember when that conversation was?
I think it was around, possibly, if I can remember, around the time of the state fair. Amy had kind of indicated, I knew she was going to be seeing this gentleman there. She had kind of indicated that maybe things were going very well with him, and that she was thinking that that's maybe something she wanted to do. She wanted to be with him. And so I felt like maybe if I prepared Todd just a little bit, and said,
bet she did.
"Hey, Todd, maybe you
Let
two
me
really
fix
aren't
this."
meant for each other. Maybe you two would be better off not being together."
Maybe you should
And do
dick
you
me
recall
down,
what Todd's
Todd.
response was?
Did you ever consider a polycule, ma'am? In Iowa, thruple.
And I was
Did you have a corn dough?
Go get your own corn rake.
He said, I have worked for this farm since I was 11, and I will not give it up.
Terry, do you remember having a conversation with Amy the week before her death?
Yes.
And was that a phone call or was that in person?
She sent me a text and said, hey, I need to talk to you, so I give her a call.
Liv.
She told me she was having surgery, wanted to know if I could come and take her to surgery and pick her up.
Oh, we
And
can
I told
talk
her I
about this.
couldn't. I was working that
Yeah.
day in St. Luke's, and
I'm trying to remember which exception. Because you can say something about the defendant. Like the defendant said this.
This is the whole. Okay, this is our wheelhouse. This is Jensen.
I am so tired right now. You have no idea.
Oh, okay.
So you go ahead,
All right.
please. I
All right. So this is the whole letter from the grave thing, right? So
Oh,
in Wisconsin versus Jensen, Mrs. Jensen sadly died, and she wrote a letter saying, if I meet an untimely death, please go and investigate my dear husband because I think he's been trying to poison me, which, funnily enough, that's how
Allegedly
she
he
died
did.
of poisoning. He did.
allegedly.
He poisoned her with antifreeze. And she gave the letter to
Yummy
her
freeze.
neighbor. Yeah. Gave the letter to her neighbor. And in the very first trial, the neighbor admitted the letter because he gave the letter to law enforcement.
To the popo.
And then, yeah, and so there was, exception when the victim says something about the defendant because innocent until proven guilty. So, there was a letter, but then there was also her words
Yeah.
that came in via the conversation to the neighbor. So the letter ended up being the reason for a overturned verdict, and they had to have a retrial in 2023. But the words to the neighbor were still allowed in.
Yeah.
So yes, she can. The words from the grave can be allowed in via a third party. Because she's not there
Yeah.
for whatever reason, even though innocent until proven guilty. But you can't have actually her words written on paper or something like that. I don't know why you can't have her words. I
can't-
still think it's stupid.
You can't
No, you
cross-examine a piece of paper.
That's right. That's the reason. You can't cross-examine her. You can cross-examine the person on the stand. You can't cross-examine her. That's the reason.
It's a Sixth Amendment violation.
It's fucking stupid. But yeah. Anyway,
You just don't like my boy.
he's a worm.
No, he's misunderstood.
He's a pin drawing collecting worm.
Well, we all need a hobby.
Anyway,
Okay. Yeah. So we'll go a little bit more, hopefully.
yeah.
so she goes, well, you know, it's kind of, Todd's really busy right now. I don't know if he'll take me, but she said, I'll figure it out.
And did you learn that later Todd did take her for that
Yes.
procedure? Did you text Amy about that procedure after she had it?
I did.
And what was the context of that conversation?
I said, hey, how'd the ablation go? Because I had had the same procedures, so I kind of knew what it was, what she was going through. We had talked a little bit about that before, like, hey, I did this, you know, it's okay, it's very simple. And so I texted her, I believe, on the 7th and said, how'd the ablation go? And she responded, it went really well. She said, it's so much better. There's just a little tiny trickle of blood instead of me bleeding heavy like I did the last 40 days. She said, I'm going to take it easy today, but I feel pretty good.
And just, do you know what an ablation is with your medical background and with having that procedure?
Yes.
What is it?
So when someone has very heavy menstruation.
a
A lot
expert.
of times, especially if they become anemic, they will go in.
Not an
with,
expert.
She is a
Objection.
nurse.
So she's not been
But
qualified
she's
as
not
an
been
expert.
qualified though, yeah.
She's not allowed to say this.
Yeah. Like,
Objection.
yeah, the defense does not know of the ability to object, apparently.
This is ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, just for Christ's sake, just break up her testimony. Just, good Lord. Just get Mrs. Ochmonic to shut up for once.
This is so funny.
Isn't that the neighbor in
That's the
Alf?
neighbor in Alf.
Yeah, he's really nosy.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought that was the right reference.
Can't believe
Almost
you knew that.
kind of like a water bottle, and they heat up the uterine lining, and it kind of burns that lining off so that they don't have those heavy periods anymore. There's no nerve endings in the uterus, so it's not painful. But
Terry, when did you have that procedure done? If you
I
remember.
had it done probably about 5 years prior to Amy having hers done, or before Amy had hers done.
And what was your recovery like?
I had no problems. I went back to work within the next day or two, and I had no problems with it at all.
Fun fact. So who was the guy that died in L.A.? Hackman?
Gene Hackman. He didn't die in LA. He died in New Mexico.
Oh, New Mexico. So you know who's involved in the investigation?
Who? Oh, Carrie.
No. Well,
Oh,
maybe.
Hooters.
Hooters.
Yeah.
Hooters is involved. Yeah, she was
Really?
asked. Yeah. Oh, so it was in New Mexico? I
Yeah.
thought it was just a property he had there. So, okay, yeah.
No. It's in Santa Fe.
Oh, fuck. Okay, so yeah, then oh God. We're getting the gang back together, folks. We're gonna get androgynous Pat back on the stand to testify. God, I hope he doesn't have any guns at the house. Okay, she's mildly involved, but still. Oh God. She's gonna blame Hannah Reed for the deaths.
Yeah.
Hannah. Poor Hannah. Suffer, Hannah.
And Alec just happened to be there.
Oh, God. Anyone check on Alec? Yeah, she was only a special prosecutor, thank God.
I know.
She can go.
It'd be good if she was responsible, though.
It'd be good if she just went away. But
Yeah.
fuck. Okay.
I better jump. All
Yeah,
right.
go ahead, jump.
I'll see you soon, yeah? We're going to do Luigi. Luigi in a minute. Luigi. And don't miss the song.
Yes, don't miss the
I
song.
won't
Guys.
start the song until you're there,
Yes.
guys. All right. See you.
All right, you guys.
Bye.
So Popple was the name. Okay, I was calling her androgynous Pat because I couldn't remember. But yeah, it was Popple. Thank you, Johnny. My brain is mush right now. Yeah, Melissa Popple is taking probably blurry photos of the pills around the body right now. And then, oh God, I wonder if Seth Kenny's there. So that's going to be interesting. I probably should look into it more, but we'll see. Tomorrow. What am I doing tomorrow? So sorry for the mess, guys. I will be streaming tomorrow, probably around 1 or 2, probably Eastern. I'm probably going to do some more waterfall. No, we still got another like 45 minutes to go, although that includes cross. I'm probably going to finish this up. on Sunday. I really want to get back to... So I had a few people reach out and wanting to see the rest of that horrible probable cause in Michigan with Judge Simpson and that creep. So I may do that, but I'll do something tomorrow. So I'll be live around 1 or 2 Eastern. Let me make sure the redirect for Hella is up. Cool. 4, right, 1, 2, 2, 2. Cool. So I will end it now and see you guys over at Hella's. Godspeed.